including the fact that I was basically out for a month. So we don't have enough time to learn a full maimer. So I chose a shorter one. But I didn't find a shorter one in the volume that we bought at the beginning of the year, Tov Shin Yud Aleph Yud Beis. This is a maimer from 1959. I highly doubt we'll complete it, but it's a Lag BaOmer maimer. That's what it is. It's a Lag BaOmer maimer.
What about the one paragraph that the Rebbe wrote?
Yeah, but that's not a complete maimer. You can't really learn that. So what we're doing is this. I give you a copy of the maimer with your name on it. Each day when you fill out your sheets, you're going to give me back your copy of the maimer plus your sheets. And I'm going to ask you to take out the old staple, so we put in the new staple. You're not going to have 44 staples on your corner of your page. It'll give me a little bit more of a sense of how many days you attended and how much attention you paid on the days that you were here.
Do we have a stapler?
I got a stapler right here. Okay, each day at the end of the class, you give me back. You're going to fill out the sheets. We're going to hopefully learn more maimer, and that's how we're going to do this. So the maimer started with Lag BaOmer, and he quickly moved on to another subject. The other subject is this notion of Mahalach and Oimid. In Chassidus, there's a concept of standing in one place and a concept of being in motion. Who stands in one place? Malachim. Angels are standing in one place. And an Neshama in Gan Eden is also standing in one place. Who is in motion? Who's moving from place to place?
Me.
A Yid in this world, a Neshama in this world. And of course, the $1 million question is, how does that make sense? Neshamas in Gan Eden and Malachim in Gan Eden are very chassidish, right? They're all in Tomchi. There's no Achei up there. Everybody's very holy and religious. And down here, we're all bouncing around, and yet we're called Mahalach and they're called Oimid. And of course, the answer basically is because they make great strides, but all the strides they make are predetermined. All the successes they have are based on the nature that the Eibishter gave them. There's no struggle and there's really no free will. Even though there is intelligence in Elam Abriya, the Shomas Elam Abriya have seichel of intelligence and understanding, and according to the Rambam, that's enough of free will. But according to Chassidus, free will is something much, much deeper and has to do with struggle. And that's our avodah. That's basically our avodah. So we're in the middle of talking about malachim. That's what's going on. If you're here for the first day and you feel like you don't know what's going on, that's what's going on. Okay, the maimer started about Lag BaOmer. We'll get back to Lag BaOmer and IYH. And now we're talking about the interface, the juxtaposition of malachim and neshamas over there versus us down here. In spite of all of our chesreinos, and we got many. We're called Mahalach, we're in motion, we're able to grow in a way which is going beyond our basic nature as servants of Hashem, and they're called Oimid. Question 14. There are 4 aspects to the limitations of angels. There are 4 aspects to the limitations of angels. List the 4 Hebrew expressions in the text that indicate those 4 expressions. If you were here on Wednesday last, which is when we learned the Maimer, I went through the 4 of them, and you should have underlined them. So it's on page 672. 6 lines in, 3rd word. The first one is Mitzad HaChoymer. That's the first one. Mitzad HaChoymer. Copy that down. Mitzad HaChoymer.
What's the English translation of that?
I'll get to that in a second. That'll be the next question.
Should we
Just write the Hebrew. Mitzad HaChoymer.
Is that 1 or 2?
That's 1. The next one is 1 line down. The line that begins Keneged Kulam V'chulu, V'chein Hatzura V'hanefesh. So the Hebrew words that you want to copy are Hatzura V'hanefesh. That's the second limitation of an angel. The third is again 1 line down, but this is 4 words, Nebuch. Second word on the line, HaKoyach Ha'eliki Hanimshach Bohem. HaKoyach Ha'eliki, it's 8 lines into the page. Second word, HaKoyach Ha'eliki Hanimshach Bohem. That's the 3rd one. And the fourth is 2 lines after that. The line that begins with the word Zeus. The third word on the line, Oifen hahashpa'o. Oifen hahashpa'o. Malachim are limited in 4 ways. Number 1, mitzad hachomer. Number 2, hatzura v'nefesh. Number 3, hakoyach halakia nimshach behem. And number 4, Oifen hahashpa'o. Good morning, David Alevi. Come here. This is the first time you're here in this class since Pesach. You don't have a page with your name on it. Each day you can give me back this Maimeh plus the question sheet answered, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Rabbi said, question 15. Question 15. Tell me when you're ready. You ready? I think I have to make a few more Maimonim. I have exactly 1 blank one left. Could you read outside and come back in afterwards?
I'll say that when I eat.
I believe you, but I don't country want people eat in front of me.
I'm like, okay. Yeah, you're right.
No, you can, I'm not saying you shouldn't eat. Go outside.
No, you're right.
Okay, question 15. Please explain what each one of these things mean. Okay, number 1, malachim have a body, which is limited. Number 2, malachim have a neshama, which is limited. Number 3, malachim get help from Hashem, which is again limited. And number 4, what malachim give us is limited. Okay, to speak in perfect Brooklynese, those are 4 stuffs, okay? Number 1, the goof of a malach is limited. Number 2, the neshama of a malach is limited. Number 3, the power which Hashem adds to the neshama is limited. And number 4, the way the neshamas provide for us is limited also. Those are 4 limitations in a malach. A malach is limited for those 4 reasons.
Yeah, help from Hashem.
Okay?
So
Yosef Yankiv,
is
how you doing?
being
Binyamin Yankiv. I'm a bad person.
horrible.
I have a kid, Binyamin. I need you to wake up.
What
To
they
tune in.
are, I think what the soul gives us is
So
limited.
What the malachim give us.
Is what they give us
That's
limited,
number 4.
or is the fact that they give us?
No, what they give us is limited. You need a pen? Okay, so now we're going to talk about each one in detail. 16. The first of the 4 ideas have to do with the idea that an angel has a body, right? And in the language of the Maimer, chomer means the body, the material that holds in a malach, distinct. Okay? You want a funny mashal to help you understand the question of the malach, the body of a malach? Think about jellyfish. I don't know how much you know about jellyfish, but there can be jellyfish that are gigantic, like 20, 30, 40 feet, and they're almost invisible. You can see straight through them. They're physical creations. They're organic. They're living. They're babies. They're born. They die. They eat and they're eaten. But they're almost invisible. I'm just giving a gashmi zik malach. A malach, according to Torah, has a body. But listen to this. Which 2 rabbis argue about it, and what is their argument? Rambam with a mem at the end, and Ramban with a nun at the end. The Rambam and the Ramban, Maimonides and Nachmanides, argue about whether malachim have a guf or not. Now, it's really ironic. Why? Because the Ramban with a nun is the Mekubal. He says they do have a guf. The Rambam with a mem is not the Mekubal. He's the philosopher. He says they don't have a guf. Rambam holds that malachim are abstract intellectuals that are defined only by ideas. They have no body whatsoever. They have no,
Ramban or Rambam? says
with a
this.
mem. Rambam with an M, it says they have no body. The Ramban with an N says they do have a body. It means that I have a posuk, Eisa malach of ruches, mishars of eish layet, that the bodies of malach are made either from fire or from air. So there's a lot of Maimorim that bring these two opinions, whether malach have a body or not. Now, question 17. Chassidus often brings this argument, but on occasion, Chassidus argues that they don't agree. Please explain.
They don't disagree.
That don't disagree. A lot of Maimorim bring, there's about like it's Rambam and Ramban, that Ramban says they have some kind of a container, some kind of a receptacle, some kind of a goof, and the Rambam holds that they don't, but there are a lot of Maimorim, especially one from the Rebbe that I've seen lately, where the Rebbe argues that the Rambam also holds they have a
Is it
body.
this one?
Huh?
Is it this one?
No, Rambam doesn't go into that. But the Rebbe holds that when the Rambam says they don't have a goof, it doesn't mean they have no goof at all, because they have to have a goof. If you're not a lakus, if you're a nivra, if you're a creation, and ungodly, you have to have some kind of a containment. When the Rambam says they have no body, he means that the body is not interfering that much with the soul. But the Rebbe actually holds, and Chassidus actually holds, that the Rambam saying they don't have a body is not different than the Ramban saying they do. It's only that from the perspective of the Rambam, we don't see the bodies, that kind of thing. We're not focusing on it. Because if you're a creation, and you're not godly, there needs to be a receptacle. There needs to be something by which you're defined. Was he sick?
So he was
Rabbi
on,
Lipsker?
On off. I don't know if he was sick just now when he passed away, but I know he was definitely sick.
But his brain was working and he was completely functional, right?
To be honest, I don't know if the words are correct.
Not good. It's a big loss. A lot of people lean on him. A lot of shluchim lean on him.
So therefore, if he still believes his body, just like
Labaya is going to be...
In here or in Florida?
So it's going to be started in Florida. I think it's going to be in...
They're bringing him here. They're bringing him here.
I think 3:30.
You should only give good news. It's a big loss. I have a bunch of family members that work for him. A brother and a nephew and a daughter, at least. Anyway, okay, so the shul is chus for Shalom Lipker's Neshama. I don't know his full name. Shalom Deber Ben, I'm assuming. A soldier served the Rebbe. Okay, 18.
Rambam's still saying that it's made of fire and air.
Or 17.
17 was that Chassidus holds that even though the Rambam says that they don't have bodies, they have to have a body because they're not godly and they're limited. But the reason the Rambam is of the position they don't have a body is because the body doesn't interfere with the soul. In other words, my modern want to say that the Rambam saying they don't have a body is really the same thing as the Ramban saying they do have a body. It's just that Kabbalah is more subtle.
So this holds that even though Rambam says he doesn't...
They don't have a body, there has to be some kind of a
Would
container.
Rambam still say it's made of fire and air?
Oh, the Rambam doesn't speak to it. You never want to infer. Never decide for the Rishonim what they're thinking when they don't speak their mind. Especially when it comes to these kind of arguments. Philosophy and mysticism are two different approaches. They're very different.
So they could still be arguing.
Well, I would like to say it more subtly, we're still not sure. To say they're arguing is already a presumption. We don't know. The best thing any smart person can do for himself is, when a piece of information is unclear, leave the space empty. Don't fill it, just say, all the boxes should be checked. When you leave questions unanswered, you create a possibility to answer them later. When you answer a question poorly, you just slam the door shut and put nails in it. Okay, 18. What is the Talmudic proof to the limitations of angels? What is the Gemara's proof, which is in the Maimed? Huh? No. The Gemara's proof to the limitations of angels, if you're looking in your text, it's 6 lines down. Karsule hachayis keneged kulam. It's the last 2 lines on the 6th line and the first 2 lines on the 7th line. Karsule hachayis keneged kulam means that the heels of the angels are the size of the entire universe. That basically, you have to look the Gemara up. Karsule hachayis, the heels of the angels, the heel, this part, is the size of the entire universe. Now, if the heel of the angels, time and time universe, I guess the angels are pretty big, yeah? You would think,
Or
yeah?
they have really big heels.
Well, they're very big heels. But even though you're saying that they're so gigantic and so massive, by giving it a measure, you're saying that it's limited.
It's like heels. Like Ike also measured by his heel. Like,
Okay, there's a question for which the answer right now is, we don't know. It's an observation, yeah? But this is the Gemara's raya. The raya from the Gemara that Maimeh brings is that the Malachim's heel are the size of the universe, or many universes. Now, of course, that makes Malachim very large, but it also puts Malachim in measure. Correct?
yeah.
And next to infinity, 1 and 6 which is the number after trillions, are the same. They're both limited. So as big as the Malachim are, that's the proof to the limitations of the Malachim, albeit notwithstanding that makes the Malachim, in terms of miles, in terms of physical measure, very, very large. Okay, now, Yugaman, with a K, what additional idea did I add from the Gemara in Chagiga? I brought a story with this guy named Matat. There's an angel named Matat. His last name is Roin. If you add up the math, Matat is 58. And Roin is 256. Together it makes Shaddai, Shin Dalad Yud, 304. Rashi says in Mashas Mishpatim that Shmoy Kishem Rabbi, this angel called Matat Roin, Matat who sings or dances, depending how you want to translate the word Roin, is Bigematria Shin Dalad Yud, the Eibishter's name. He's a very, very important angel, very important malach. You know why? He's called Sarish Aloylam. He's in charge of the external world. He's our policeman. He's our gatekeeper. All of the business of the external world, as opposed to the internal world, which is Torah Mitzvahs, is Matat's business. And the Gemara says that Matat made a comment. Actually, look the Gemara up. He made a comment to the effect that Hashem may not be fully in charge of the world. And the reason he said this is the Eibishter told him. The Eibishter told Matat to do something. And Matat says that means that the Shtei Rishuyos, Hashem is not fully in charge. For Haraya, he's able to act in the way he was commanded to act. So they took him out of Gan Eden, this Matat guy, and they gave him 60 lashes of fire. Not 40 lashes, but 60. And not with a whip, but with a fiery lash. And I saw a mimer from the Rebbe, where the Rebbe brings this, that this great Malach, Matat, was able to make a statement that although it was said in a very mystical, very theoretical way, speaks about the opposite of Hashem being the master of the world. Now that's really, really bad. How could a Malach make such a statement? Because Malachim have limitations. The Maimara bring the proof for the limitations of a Malach is the fact that Matat was able to make such a mistake. If a Malach has no limits, a Malach has to be perfect. If the Malach is going to be perfect, he'll never say anything which is untrue. The fact that a Malach was punished, although you could start asking questions about what kind of free will the Malach has, which is another whole story, saying that a Malach could make a statement which suggests that Hashem is not the complete balabayas and you have to punish him, speaks to the limitations of a Malach.
Is that the additional idea that you're
Yes, the additional idea is question 19. The additional idea is that the Gemara says that Matat said something about the Eibishter not being a balabayas and he was punished for it. That also speaks to the limitations of a Malach. Okay, if you had to write it in a few words, that the Gemara tells a story about Matat saying that Hashem is not a complete balabayas and being punished for it. Mem Tes, and his last name is Roy, Reish Vov Nun.
I just did M-A-T-A-T.
Okay, we got M-A-T-A-T.
It says, Matat says Hashem was not what?
That there's two Rishuyas, that there's a possibility that Hashem is not fully in charge. Because Hashem told him to exact punishment from somebody or something like that.
Isn't this like kind of two proofs? Because he was also whipped. You can't really be whipped if you're nothing.
Okay, so whatever. You can always split the hair.
It's not really. That's splitting a hair.
You have to understand, I brought something which is not even in the minor, so it's enough extra. We don't need extra. Question 20. What controversy is there regarding the free will question and angels? What controversy is there regarding the free will question and angels? The answer is, number one, It says in Tanya that malachim they're not smart, they're just passionate. But malachim of Bria do have intelligence, they're able to reason, they're able to be logical. The Rambam holds that if you're logical, you have free will. Chassidus, depending on which Maimon you're learning, says that even being intelligent doesn't give you free will. To have free will, you have to have an essence. Okay? I'm going to repeat that again. Question 20. What controversy is there regarding the free will question of malachim? Most Chesed most malachim are emotional. Emotional creatures for sure have no free will. But some malachim are intelligent, the malachim Melech Mabriya, which means they can reason and they can understand, they can be logical and so forth. And malachim that are logical and reasonable, according to the Rambam, that is enough to say that they have free will, but not according to Chassidus. Okay?
Wait, according to who's the first one?
Rambam.
The Rambam writes in
Rambam with an N or
with an M. In the second section of Beis Rivka writes that malachim have free will because they're smart, they're intelligent, they can intellectually discern. And my modern by being smart doesn't give you free will, it just gives you a different kind of judgment. To be free will, you have to have an essence. So that's the controversy.
So the angel was supposed to say that?
So first of all, most angels don't even have intelligence according to Chassidus. Only the malachim of Bria. And second of all, having intelligence, which means that you're a malach from Bria, that according to the Rambam means you have free will, is not necessarily sufficient according to Chassidus.
So how do we explain the story?
Reb Mordechai Shlita, take this and take this.
Yeah, how would that?
That's part of the controversy. How do you explain the story? You have to understand, this whole thing is based on a Maimon from the Rebbe. The first Rosh Hashanah Maimon from the Rebbe, Tafshin Yud Beis, questions 19 and 20 are from that Maimon. The first paragraph. I didn't make it up, I'm repeating my Maimon.
What do you mean you need to have an essence?
According to Hasidus, to be free in your choice, see, most people think of free will about picking between one thing and another. If you pick between two things, and they amount to a good apple and a bad apple, Hasidus is going to argue you didn't pick, you simply observed. Because once you observe the good apple chooses itself. So most people define free will by the ability to decide what's the good apple, what's the bad apple. The Rebbe says free will is the ability to choose because of you and not because of what you're choosing. If you choose something because you like it, then that thing chose itself. You just saw it. You just pointed it out. You just flushed it out. The Rebbe has a very, very radical position on free will. Rabbeinu Chaim Shnei Zalman. I'm sorry, say it again.
We have free will.
I'm going to answer your question, but I don't want to have the conversation.
Look, I could do this.
Fair enough, okay? It says in Tanya that you cannot say that the free will of the Eibush is on the Yiddish and Neshama, because the Yiddish and Neshama is superior. You can only say that the choice of Hashem is in the Yiddish and Guf, because there is no difference between a Jewish Guf and a non-Jewish Guf. So the choice is not based on preference. It's based on freedom. And we're not having the conversation.
Yeah, no, not about that, but I was asking, like, what's an example of something we would do, yes?
Okay, nicht jetzt. I gave you an example, and you don't like it, so you want another one. Okay. You want to go down the... I want to tell you something. Whenever free will comes up, I tell people free will is a merry-go-round. It never finishes. Because I take one position, you take the other position, and we argue indefinitely. So I say, you want the free will? I have a 20-page essay, 25-page essay, actually. Everything is sourced. I can send you the essay, you can read it yourself, and after you finish reading it, when I'm not there for you to argue, when you're done, you can come back. If you want it, I'll be happy to send it to you. It's a click of a button. Just you have to ask me for it. Not now, when I'm at my computer. Question 21. The second limiting idea of the neshama is the soul. Please explain what is the proof that the souls of angels have limits. Please explain what is the proof that the souls of angels have limits.
Soul's a piece of Hashem, which are unlimited.
No, that if the body is limited, the soul has to be limited, because you cannot put an infinite soul to a finite body. Simple. Since we established Harav Slav and Shlita, since we established that Malachim have a guf, and the guf is not a lakus, the guf is nivra, So automatically the neshama has to be limited, because if you put too much neshama into too little goof, it's going to explode. It's not going to work.
But that's our soul. What about their soul?
Same thing, because they have a goof.
Wait,
Not
so can you
according
put
to,
our soul in?
Never mind.
Can you say that again? With
The reason
I don't know how you manage to confuse that. If the body is limited, the neshama that goes into that body has to be limited accordingly. That's the whole business.
that was easy. That works.
Allegedly brought a story to.
See, that's the question. And that's how we understand whether the Rambam and the Ramban are arguing. I believe, personally, and this is a big controversy, that ultimately, on a very, very sublime level, there is something physical about it. In other words, I believe that anything which is limited, or to say it in infatuous, it's not godly, in one way or another has an association with what we call physicality, okay? But let me tell you how fine it goes, okay? According to Torah, physical matter has 3 layers. The middle layer is fire, wind, water, earth, as they're separate elements. Malachim are created either from fire or from wind alone. But the Maimorim say it doesn't mean the fire and wind that we normally talk about. Because the fire and wind and water and earth that we normally talk about is the bodies of the shadim, of the ruchis, of the ghosts, of the spirits, of the boogeyman under your bed. The fire and the wind, which is the body of a malach, is even higher than that. So we never met it. We haven't even met it in philosophy class, let alone in reality. But I personally believe that there's some kind of physical receptacle. The Rambam is going to say it's not there at all, because it's so theoretical. The Ramban is going to say as theoretical as it is a body. The question that you're asking, which is legitimate, is it physical or is it a different kind of containment? I appreciate. I believe, based on the Maimorim that I've learned, that it has a connection to physicality. And furthermore, has a connection to something called physical time and space in one way or another. But this is very controversial. Moving on, okay? So 21 we did already, right? The second limiting idea of neshamas of angels is their souls. Please explain what is the proof that souls of angels limited. The answer is, if the body is limited, the soul has to be limited. Too much body, too much soul, too little body, and you have an implosion. It platzes. Correct.
Soul that goes into the body has to be limited.
Correct.
Oxygen goes down.
Question 22. What story that I bring you to illustrate this point from the Yismach Moshe? For those who do not know, the Yismach Moshe is the grandfather of Rabbi Yossi Paltiel, whose last name was Teitelbaum. The Yismach Moshe's last name was also Teitelbaum. The Hungarian Rebbe's traditionally had the last name Halberstam with a shin. The Satmar Rebbe's wife was a Halberstam. Was a cousin of his. All the Halberstam, the descendants of the Divrei Chaim. Many, many years ago, there was on the radio a guy named Halberstam who used to report, I think, sports. So your uncle Chaim Baruch called him up. You're Einiklach from the Baruch Golitza. You probably know that, right? Oh, you're bad. You should go home with your father and teach me who I am. You come from the holiest Tzaddikim. Chaim Baruch always told me that all the from Halberstams are from the Baruch Golitza. His name is Chaim Baruch. His name after his age. Chaim after Chaim Halberstam, the Divrei Chaim, and Baruch after his son, the Baruch Golitza. So he called. So the oldest of the Divrei Chaim's children was the Shin Yeverav, the Becheskel Shin Yeverav, Becheskel Halberstam, the oldest son of the Divrei Chaim. So he called up. He got a way of tracking this guy down. He was on the radio, WINS or CBS. He used to report, and he used the name Halberstam. He didn't shorten it. So he called the guy. The guy must have got 100 calls. So he got him on the phone and said to him, "My name is Halberstam. I'd like to know from which branch of the family you are." The guy said, "I'm from the Chin Yeverav," and hung up the phone. I'm done with answering this. Like, don't even think about it. So anyway,
Wait, where do you say he's from?
the Divrei Yecheskel, the oldest son of the Chaim Tans had many children, had a lot of children. And I heard from someone who knows that he never allowed all of his children to be in one place at the same time. No, he made a wedding, he didn't invite all of his children. He was pushing word about Ayin Hara. He was such a gebench Shtadid, the Reb Chaim Tanzir. And he lived 87 years. It's a very long time. His yahrzeit is Chav Hey Nis. 11 days ago, in Shul yesterday, a guy made a kiddush For his father's yahrzeit was Achei Temimim. So I told him, that your father shares a yahrzeit with the Divrei Chaim. Chaim of Sanz.
So the news reporter was like
He was his name was Halberstam. And he used his name. He didn't change it.
Wait, but which side of the family?
So Chaim Baruch called him up. His uncle, his father's grandfather's brother called him up. And he got him on the phone. He tracked him down. And he says, my name is Halberstam. I'd like to make your acquaintance. So he says, I'm descendant of the oldest, the Divrei Yecheskel, the Shinya Verav, and he hung up the phone. Because every Halberstam in Brooklyn is calling this guy up. Half of Satmar is Halberstam. The Divrei Chaim was a Rebbe. We had many, many children who all became Rebbes. And there's an enormous number of Hasidic dynasties. A lot of the Hungarian dynasties are from the Divrei, from the Tzad Zerav. The Satmar Rebbe was married to a Halberstam. The Kloisenberger Rebbe was a Halberstam. He was his nephew. Anyway, but the Tzatmar Rebbe's last name was Teitelbaum. The father of that family was the Yismach Moshe, who was a Talmud of the Chayze. He was in the times of the Alter Rebbe. The Yismach Moshe had a schus. I told you the story in class. The Yismach Moshe had a schus. He did some kind of mitzvah. And because of this schus, he was told min Hashamayim that he can ask for some spiritual gift. I heard the story, that I saw it in a sefer. So he says the spiritual gift that I want is I would like to experience the Yiras Hashem of the Rambam. I want to experience the fear of God of the Rambam. Now the Rambam is Mr. Logic, the Rambam is Mr. Philosophy, the Rambam is Mr. Centrist, the Rambam is not a spiritual radical Hasidic Rebbe, right? He's an enlightened intellectual. So he said, I want to experience the Yerushalayim of the Rambam, and he was told in Hashemayim, if you'll experience the Yerushalayim of the Rambam, you'll platz. You won't be able to hold it. You're goof. And the Yisrael Moshe was a tzaddik gomer. You understand? Not me and you could not hold the Yiddish, but they told him will allow you to experience the Yerushalayim that the Rambam felt while he was doing an operation. The Rambam was a doctor for many years. And he practiced surgery. However, you practiced surgery in the 12th century, it wasn't exactly like today. But the Rambam practiced some kind of medicine, some kind of surgery. And of course, when the Rambam was operating on somebody, he was thinking about the person. He wasn't thinking about the Eibishter. The Eibishter was in the background. So the Yismach Moshe was allowed to experience the years Hashem of the Rambam, and he physically fell to the ground. He didn't lose his life, but he collapsed. So imagine that. The years Hashem of the Rambam was a man walking around like a regular guy. The power of his neshama in his goof was so great that if you would take that neshama and put it into another person's goof, it would literally die.
So that means also part of his body was greater.
So the goof of the Rambam had to be so incredibly powerful to hold the neshama of the Rambam. It's unbelievable.
How does that?
It proves that there's a corollary between the neshama and the goof. Once you establish that the goof is limited, you automatically establish that the neshama is limited. It's a byproduct. Because an infinite soul can happen. So one of the boys asked me, what about the human soul, which is limited, unlimited? And the answer, of course, is the unlimited soul is not revealed in the body. The soul is reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced, only a small percentage.
But they're connected.
Of what they're connected, but it's not revealed in the goof. And I mentioned to you in class, and I want to repeat it, that when the Rebbe made a takon of Rambam, and Baruch Hashem, today we're learning. This is probably the hardest Rambam of the year if you actually learn it. Tezvav Tezayin and Yud Zayin of Kiddush HaChodesh. Perek Yud Zayin of Kiddush HaChodesh is so long. It's as long as all 5 Megillas. Megillas Esther, Megillas Rus, and Megillas Eicha especially. And Shira. What the Rambam does is every chapter gives you one rule. Chapter 11 is one rule, chapter 12 is another rule, chapter 13 another, and chapter 17 he ties all the rules together. It's whoa! Forget about understanding, you're just remembering all the labels. Just remember all the labels from Perek Yud Aleph to Perek Zayin. Doesn't have to drive you mad. Huh? Yud Zayin is huge. You're enjoying 3 Prakim Rambam. Okay, I'm not going to ask you any questions. Tezvav is okay. Today's 3 Prakim. The 3rd Perek of today is, like I said, as long as 5 Megillas, particularly Megillas Eicha. You're never going to feel so stupid in your life. I'm walking up from Shul. I have a neighbor who's a genius. And he's rattling it off like it's apple juice. And I'm, whoa. Mercha kakofel and all kinds of... I asked him a question in the last Perek of yesterday's Rambam. And I regretted it because I never felt... I don't understand a word he was saying. But anyway, so the Rambam, the Rebbe made the cut of learning Rambam, and he gave 3 reasons why. I would like to propose that there's another reason that the Rebbe didn't mention. Now, how could I make up what the Rebbe is thinking? I'm not allowed to make up what the Rebbe is thinking. But I just want to share it with you anyway. The holy Maggid of Mizrich, who's our Rebbe's, told his son, the holy Malach, the angel, on his deathbed, from the Malach, learn Rambam every day because it's a school for Yiras Shamayim. He didn't say learn Gemara. He didn't even say learn Shulchan Aruch. He said learn Rambam every day because it's a school for Yiras Shamayim. There's a little piece of me that believes that the Rebbe knew that. I promise you, it's in the tzavah of the Maggid, which everybody has. The Mizitcher Maggid told us son before he passed away, learning Rambam at school for Yiras Shamayim. So we learn Rambam. You run the risk, Chaim Shtei Zalman, of actually becoming religious and having your life ruined permanently, you understand? The Rambam is a school for fear of heaven, Yiras Shamayim. So there's a story with a tzaddik gomer who experienced the Rambam's Yiras Shamayim while the Rambam was doing an operation and he physically collapsed. It demonstrates this idea that only a small percentage of what the neshama is to go into the guf. If the guf is limited, and again, the magic word is not just as limited, it's not the lakus, which I'm not explaining it to you, but if it's godliness, there's different rules. A created entity which is not godliness is limited, and if you put too much into it, it explodes. And that supports that the neshama is also limited. Now, Chavre, it is now 6 minutes to 9, and now we're ready to start our class. So we're like right on time, okay? I'm not going to keep you long, but I do want to read a little of the Maimon. Chavre, you have the Maimon in front of you? We're going to V'oid Zois. It's 7 lines from the top of the page at the end of the line. V'oid Zois. Point 3. We just read that the guf is limited and we're arrived from a Gemara. Karsu le'achayis keneged kulam. We further learned that the neshama is limited. The Maimon didn't bring a proof. I brought the proof that if the guf is going to be limited, the neshama in that guf needs to be limited. In turn, now goes number 3. I'm reading it inside, okay? Shagam ha'koyach ha'laki ha'nimshach b'hem. After the neshama is created, his body is created. And into that body you put a soul. There's godliness which is added, which is b'medida v'hagbala, which is also limited. And the proof is, there can be 2 malachim that contradict one another. For example, the archangel Michael, okay? If you don't know what archangel means, neither do I, so we're both equally intelligent, okay? The malach Machon is ahava, love, Gavriel, begevura, the malach Gavriel is in gevura, and gevura v'chesed, they base havchim, gevura and chesed, 2 opposites. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think this means, even though I don't know what it means. God created angels. Right? You're supposed to say yeah, no. Thank you. And he gave them a task, gave them a mission. How do we say a mission in our generation? A shlichus. A shlichus, yeah. How do you say it in the earlier generations? A kavana. When you create something and you don't give them a job, that is depression. It's not depressing, it's depression. Anything which exists. Yesterday I had some people in my house. They had the Shabbos Chabad in the Heights. So we had a bunch of people over. My daughter's here with her son, with her husband, and many people. So Rabbi Manis Friedman spoke to them before Shabbos. Rabbi Manis Friedman said the most important thing in life is not to be loved, which is of course heresy in our generation. The most important thing in life is to be needed. And the worst thing that can happen to a person, you give them hugs and kisses, and tell them sit in your chair and eat potato chips, because all you're good for is hugs and kisses. A person needs a job. Yeah, but jobs are work and it's hard, I'm lazy. Now you're supposed to say, what are you supposed to say now? Blah, 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 blah. Correct? But the truth of the matter is, there is no greater valuing of a creation than giving him a job.
Yeah, if anything, I was going to say that 80% of creation is like that. Well, not creation, but humans.
In this generation.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunately, it's a choice. It's a bad chinuch. Rabbi Friedman told the story. I got chazara. I wasn't there at the speech. I asked him how 500 people could hear him speak. He said he was on the mic. He spoke before a lichbench. There were 2 Jews walking in the streets of Crown Heights. This goes back 70 years. And they see the then young Lubavitcher Rebbe, whose beard looked smaller than yours. The Rebbe was walking. And one says to the next, oh look, there's the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I want to go give him shalom. And the second one says to the first one, no, you don't want to give him shalom. He says, why not? It's just me. You don't want to give him shalom. Anyway, so the first one went over to the Rebbe and gave him shalom aleichem. The Rebbe was a very nice man, shook his hand, and immediately asked him where he's from. He says he's from Cleveland. So the Rebbe said, I heard that the mikveh in Cleveland, the mikveh Nashim in Cleveland is not so good. I think you should go back and you should work on making the mikveh better. So the guy goes back to his friend, does he know what just happened? The Rebbe just gave me a job. And the guy that said to him, I told you shouldn't tell him hello. I knew it. You go over to the Rebbe, boom, he gave you a job. So now, it's uncomfortable, right? It's much easier. I like myself, I like my life. Right? What's America's most important statement? Don't bother me. The Rebbe used to say, mind your own business. It is a Russian accent. One of the klippos in America is I have a fence. You're on your side of the fence. I'm on my side of the fence. Don't look at what I'm doing. I'm making barbecue. Don't look. I'm not sharing.
Especially in New York.
Mind your own business. Everybody's in their own little bubble. Right? One second. And the Rebbe bothers people. That's what he did for a living. He bothered people. So Magnus's point was, Rabbi Friedman's point was, the Rebbe is not bothering you. There's something that needs to get done. And someone has to do it, so he's giving you a job. The Rebbe is bothering you because he wants to value you. What Rabbi Friedman was trying to say was, when the Rebbe gave this person a mission, go back to Cleveland, fix the mikveh, it wasn't only because of the problem with the mikveh. The Rebbe was saying to this Yid, you're important. You have a purpose. In other words, when the Rebbe sends a person on a shlichus, it's not just because the shlichus needs to get done, but because the shliach needs to have a definition. And as Pinchas Zelio just pointed out, 80% of the people in this world don't know what their purpose is. It's very depressing. So in addition to creating the guf of a malach and the neshama of a malach, he creates the shlichus of a malach. But there's a catch. When God and a tzaddik, the Rebbe, tzaddikim deimon lebaydim, give you a job, finish a sentence.
You gotta do it.
No, true, but that's not what I'm looking for.
If you don't do it, you're
Pointless.
That's depressing, huh? When the Eibishter gives you a shlichus, when a Rebbe, a tzaddik, who's a tzaddikim deimon lebaydim, gives you a shlichus, finish a sentence. They give you the koiches to do it. And that's item 3. Koyach alaki hanimshach behem. Malach Machon is a nice guy, but that Machon was given a mission. You, the angel of kindness. Malach Gabriel is a nice guy. And the everybody, I'm giving you a mission. You're the angel. I like to translate Gvura as exactitude. I think it's a very exact definition. Exact. Gvura is not bad. Gvura is precise. Exactitude. That's a great word that I learned from Winston Churchill, Rabbi Fenton's favorite political personality. This is item 3. Item 3 is, let's read the words inside. The Eidzes, moreover, Shagam Kecha Lekiha Nimshach Bam. The Eibishter gives them a godly power on top of their existence. And the godly power that it gives them on top of their existence adds their mission, their purpose. Is Medida Vagbal is limited. And the proof is, each creation has a purpose, and the purposes contradict each other. Achei is based Hofchim. If the Eibishter gives one Yid one shlichus, and a second Yid the second shlichus, and they're both serving the same Eibishter, the two shlichus should be compatible. And they're not. One malach shlichus is chesed, the other malach shlichus is gvura, and if you put Machon and Gavil in the same room, without the Eibishter monitoring it, they'll destroy each other. Machon is love, Gavil is exactitude, and Gavur and Chesed are Beis Rivka. And that's item 3. The third item is that when the Eibishter empowers a malach to do his shlichus, he empowers him in the kind of way that's limited. The haraya, one malach shlichus, and the other malach shlichus are contradictory. Now, I don't want to be long-winded here, but I just want to tell you this by kids and image, and tomorrow I'm going to write it up in the questions. We'll talk about it again a little bit more at length. This is the difference between malachim and neshamas. When you have a neshama from Chesed, like Hillel, and a neshama from Gevura, like Shammai, it says in Yigash Zakedesh Yud Gimel, there's a little Gevura in Hillel, there's a little Chesed in Shammai. But it says in Yigash Zakedesh Yud Beis, there's 2 letters in Tanya about Achdus, 12 and 13. 12 is about angels, and 13 is about souls. In Neshamas, every Neshama has all the other ones inside of itself. In Malachim, there's a real contradiction. Machol is only Chesed, there's no Gevura. Gevura is only with no Chesed. Not like Hillel and Shammai. Hillel is predominantly Chesed, but there's Gevura there too. Shammai is predominantly Gevura, but there's Chesed. But by Malachim, the Eibishter gives you a mission. He empowers you to do it. And you don't want to meet the guys from the other side of the street because you'll destroy each other. Because they're different. Which is a third limitation. Okay? Questions or comments? Talk loud and clear.
The story of the Rebbe giving the guy from Cleveland a job and in a beautiful mikveh right now.
Of course, what kind of question? Could it be that the guy should listen to the Rebbe? There's a chazakah.
Yeah.
But the Rebbe did this 10,000 times. The Rebbe met you, gave you a job. And by the way, he would follow up. There was a very interesting man. You have a minute for a story, you have a minute for a story worthwhile. I heard this story from Tzvi Greenwald, Rabbi Machon. He says it happened to him. He was in an airport in Tel Aviv, in Ben Gurion, on his way to New York. And a man who was in his late 80s walks up to him, a frum man, but I don't know if he had a beard. And he says to him, "You're a Lubavitcher? I got a story with the Lubavitcher Rebbe." And he tells him the following story. He was living in Israel. He did what they called Aliyah. But he had lived in America, in New York for many years. He was a Rav of a shul in the east side of Manhattan. And of course, the neighborhoods were changing. People were not going to shul anymore. He had all these shuls and he had no people. And his shul had a mikveh for women. So years before, the mikveh was busy. He had every single night women come to the mikveh and multiple women. The mikveh ladies didn't get paid very well, but they got tips. A mikveh lady gets more money from the tips than from the salary. But as time passed, fewer and fewer women started using the mikveh. It wasn't even every night. And the tips were very small. So it was very difficult. So there was a lady... So the shul wanted to close the mikveh. The shul wanted to close the mikveh. But he wouldn't let. The rabbi wouldn't let. So the board got together when he wasn't there, and one day he comes to shul, and as he's sitting in shul by mincha, the mikveh lady, who was downstairs preparing the mikveh because I want to come, comes upstairs, and she says, "Rabbi, I don't know what to tell you, but the mikveh's locked. They put a padlock on the mikveh." He was very upset. He took a hammer, he went downstairs, and he smashed the lock. Right? 5 minutes later, she's back. "Rabbi, they put a lock on the door with all this and with the soaps and this." He again came down. He was very angry because they didn't consult him, and he smashed the lock. The next day, this mikveh lady comes back into the shul and says, "What's the problem now?" He says, "I have a message from you from the Lubavitcher Rebbe." From the Lubavitcher Rebbe? Yeah. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said to tell you, "Blessed be the hands that broke the lock off the mikveh." So this modern Orthodox rabbi says to this modern Orthodox lady in Lower Manhattan, "How do you come to the Lubavitcher Rebbe?" She says, "I'll tell you, I'm working in this mikveh for many years. I used to be very busy and had nice parnasa. The shul gave me a little bit of a salary, which had also been reduced, but the tips were good in Manhattan. Anyway, as time passes, fewer and fewer women using the mikveh. It's not even every night. And I can't leave. I can't go on a vacation in case someone needs the mikveh. A mikveh lady is not allowed to leave town. So I met a friend of mine who was also a mikveh lady, and I said to her, I have this job. It doesn't pay well. There's almost no women using the mikveh. I feel trapped. What should I do?" So the second lady says to the first lady, "Do what I did. I used to be very busy, and there were a lot of women using mikveh every night, and the mikveh was shutting down. Somebody told me if you have an issue with religion, you have to call Hyacinth 39250, 493-9250, 493-9251. That's the America's number in 770. So she called up the number, and she told the Rabbi Chadakov, she got Chadakov on the phone, that I'm a mikveh lady, and there's so few women using the mikveh, and it's so infrequent. I'm stuck in New York. I can't go anyplace. I don't have parnasa." So Rabbi Chadakov said he'll get back to her. Rabbi Chadakov called her back and said, "I want to ask you a question. In the better years, how much was your salary plus tips? How much did you get paid? When you had a lot of people used to make this upper tips." So she gave him a number. Rabbi Chadakov said, "You keep the mikveh open, we're going to send you a check for the full amount every month." So that's what she did. And every few months, Rabbi Chadakov would call her. Sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. Rabbi Chadakov didn't have a day and a night, and he didn't notice anybody else's days and nights. And he would ask her questions, which was his way of ascertaining that she was actually keeping it open. She wasn't just taking the checks. And as long as this woman kept the mikveh open and didn't leave the city, the Rebbe paid her every chodesh. So woman A says to woman B, "You should call 770. So woman B called 770. She got Chadakov on the phone. She said, "Listen, my friend told me that I should call. I have this mikveh. There's very few women coming. They're not every night. and the tips of it, I can't make a living and I can't go anyplace. Rabbi Chadakov says, I'll get back to you. And he got back to her and he said, if you promise to keep the mikveh open, and anytime a woman needs the mikveh, either you or somebody else can see the woman to the mikveh, we'll pay you full salary plus tips that you made in the better years. And every few months, Rabbi Chadakov would call me. Yesterday, she says, when you brought the locks off the mikveh, at 12:30 at night, the phone in my house rings. I pick up the phone. Rabbi Chadakov says, "What's going on in the mikveh?" In other words, the Rebbe knew. She says, "How did you know to call?" She said, "What's going on in the mikveh?" It's like she told the story. So she told him the whole story. And Rabbi Chadakov said, "The Rebbe told me to tell you, blessed be the hand that smashed off the locks of the mikveh." So this guy's 85 years old, and he lifts up his hands, and he says to Rabbi Greenwald, "You see? My hands don't shake. My hands are strong as a young man's. These are not my hands. These are the hands of the Baruch